50 years, martial arts legend Sammo Hung carried a secret about the day he challenged Bruce Lee. A secret that wasn't about the fight, but about the terrifying truth it exposed.
I tried to start kick him. My kick just go to the halfway, and he fit already on my face. Like that. I'm just like that. Then, what do you say? I said, you're really fast.
For decades, we saw Sammo Hung as the jovial, larger-than-life master of action comedy, a titan of Hong Kong cinema. But behind the curtain of fame, he was haunted by the ghost of the one man who reset the laws of combat. At 72, Hung has finally broken his silence in a moment that shattered his reality and secretly defined the rest of his career. This is the story of the hidden crisis that erupted in the shadow of Bruce Lee's global fame, and the untold story of how Sammo Hung was left standing at its epicenter. To truly understand the weight of this 50-year silence, it is essential to return to the brutal Hong Kong Academy where his journey began. The brutal academy that forged a legend. Long before he was a titan of action cinema, Sammo Hung was a forgotten child, whose only escape from a broken home was a place that promised to forge him into a star, or break him completely. Born in Hong Kong to a film industry family, his actor father and wardrobe artist mother were ghosts in his life, their careers leaving no room for a son. Raised by his grandparents, he was eventually enrolled, or rather offloaded, at the China Drama Academy at just 9 years old. It was less a school and more a forge, where children were hammered into performers through a grueling regimen of pain and perfection. Under the notoriously strict Master Yu Jim Yuan, students endured beatings, starvation, and endless acrobatic and martial arts training that pushed them to their limits. Here, as the eldest and toughest, Sammo became Dai Go, the big brother to a troop of boys known as the Seven Little Fortunes, which included a dynamic young acrobat named Jackie Chan. He was their protector and leader. But this brutal world had no room for weakness. After suffering a severe leg injury during training, he was confined to his bed for an extended period. In a formative moment of cold betrayal, his master forced him to continue performing, limp and all, teaching him a savage lesson. Your pain doesn't matter, only your performance does. During his long, inactive recovery, he gained a significant amount of weight, a physical trait that would define his silhouette forever. It tragically typecast him as the clumsy buffoon or the overweight villain, a humiliating box for a martial artist of his caliber. His talent was undeniable, but the industry only saw his size. The rebel who changed martial arts forever. While Sammo Hung fought for scraps in the Hong Kong studio system, another fighter was across the ocean, battling a far more public war, and building an arsenal that would soon change cinema forever. Bruce Lee was a man forged in conflict. Born an American citizen in San Francisco, but raised in the rough and tumble streets of Hong Kong, his mixed Eurasian heritage made him a target. He was bullied by British students for being Chinese, and ostracized by some in the martial arts community for not being Chinese enough. This crucible of prejudice fueled a lifelong obsession with self-improvement and a defiant need to prove his worth. After his rebellious youth of street fighting saw him frequently clash with the police, his parents sent him to America with $100 in his pocket, telling him to sink or swim. He didn't just swim, he built an ark. He founded his own martial arts schools, but his revolutionary act was teaching Kung Fu to non-Chinese students, an act seen as a profound betrayal by traditionalists. This led to a legendary, behind-closed-doors duel with Wong Jackman, where Lee's right to teach was on the line. His big break as Kato in the Green Hornet was a double-edged sword. It brought fame, but it also cemented him as a sidekick. The deepest cut came when he was passed over for the lead role in the TV series Kung Fu, a concept he had poured his soul into, only to see it given to a white actor. It was a searing lesson in the racist hypocrisy of Hollywood. That rejection forged his ultimate weapon. He returned to Hong Kong, partnered with Raymond Chow, and created Concord Productions, Inc., a company built to turn his revolutionary vision into a global empire he controlled completely. A collision of titans. By the early 1970s, Sammo Hung had become a star by hiding his explosive talent behind a comedic mask. But that mask was about to be ripped away by the one man whose legend was eclipsing everyone. Hung was a powerhouse. After cutting his teeth as an assistant action director for the Shaw Brothers studio, he had clawed his way to the top. His directorial debut, 1977's The Iron-Fisted Monk, was a sensation, and he solidified his status as a premier filmmaker with hits like Encounters of the Spooky Kind and The Magnificent Butcher. He had created a beloved and commercially successful niche, a breathtaking blend of intricate, hard-hitting choreography and disarming slapstick comedy. His public image was solidified as Dai Go, the lovable big brother of Hong Kong cinema. But a storm was gathering. Bruce Lee had returned from America, and his films were not just movies, they were cultural events. The Big Boss and Fist of Fury shattered box office records, showcasing a brutal, lightning-fast fighting style the world had never seen. Lee was a phenomenon, a global icon whose intensity made everything else feel dated. The two men were on a collision course, and their worlds finally met when Hung was working as a stuntman on one of Lee's sets. He watched Lee, the myth made flesh, and felt a potent combination of awe and raw professional rivalry. He was a master of his craft, but this man operated on a different plane. Driven by a career's worth of pride and an insatiable need to know the truth, Hung decided to challenge the legend. He walked up to Bruce Lee and asked a simple question that would trigger an unforgettable and terrifying demonstration of power. The kick that changed everything. On the set of what would become Enter the Dragon, Sammo Hung finally came face to face with Bruce Lee, not as a fan, but as a challenger, and in a flash, he learned the terrifying secret behind Lee's power. The core revelation Hung kept guarded for 50 years wasn't a scandal of infidelity or betrayal. It was the profound, system-shocking moment his understanding of martial arts was rendered obsolete. With the bravado of a man who'd earned his place, he asked Lee, "Are you really that fast?" Bruce, ever the pragmatist, didn't waste time with words. He simply said, "Sure." Then he moved. Before Hung could even process the motion, Lee unleashed a high kick aimed directly at his face. It was so blindingly fast, so impossibly precise, that Hung didn't even see a blur. All he registered was the sudden gust of wind as the kick stopped, frozen, less than an inch from his temple. He was paralyzed, his mind unable to reconcile the stillness of the foot in front of him with the explosive speed that put it there. He later admitted, "He was very fast. I was just surprised." The understatement concealed a paradigm shift. The secret was revealed. There was the world of martial arts, and then there was the dimension Bruce Lee inhabited alone. This private humbling gave way to a public one when Hung was cast in the opening scene of Enter the Dragon, a sparring match where his character is swiftly defeated by Lee. For audiences, it was a thrilling fight. For Hung, it was a private lesson from a master, an honor that deeply influenced his own approach to choreography. But just as this profound, unspoken mentorship was beginning, the ultimate crisis struck. On July 20th, 1973, Bruce Lee died suddenly from a cerebral edema at the age of 32. The news didn't just break hearts, it broke the industry, leaving a gaping power vacuum and a devastating personal void for the man who had just glimpsed the sublime. Life in the shadow of a ghost. With Bruce Lee gone, the Hong Kong film industry descended into a frantic search for a successor. But for Sammo Hung, the fallout was far more personal, a battle for his own identity in the shadow of a ghost. The immediate professional aftermath was a grotesque and cynical cash grab known as Bruceploitation. An army of lookalikes with names like Bruce Lee and Dragon Lee flooded the market with cheap, soulless imitations, tarnishing the legend's memory for a quick profit. In this creative and spiritual wasteland, Hung faced a choice: imitate the master and become another pale copy, or innovate and build something entirely new. His response was a masterclass in damage control and self-definition. Instead of copying Lee's deadly seriousness, he founded his own production companies, Garbo Motion Picture Company and Boho Films, and did the opposite. He leaned into his unique strengths, pioneering a new wave of action cinema that blended jaw-dropping stunts, intricate choreography, and his signature physical comedy. Yet, no matter what he built, the media insisted on framing him within Lee's shadow. For years, critics and studios manufactured a rivalry between him and his own little brother, Jackie Chan, relentlessly pitting them against each other in a public war for Bruce Lee's throne. Their iconic collaborations in films like Project A and Wheels on Meals were cinematic gold, But the constant comparison created immense pressure. Hung's ambition was limitless, but his finances were not. After a series of films lost money, his longtime studio partner, Golden Harvest, ended their lucrative collaboration, leaving him financially exposed and forcing him to retreat from the spotlight. Sammo Hung's final word on Bruce Lee. In his later years, Sammo Hung could have let his legacy be defined by his rivalry with Jackie Chan, but instead, he made a series of choices that revealed the truth about the ghost he'd been chasing his entire career. After the financial collapses of the early 90s, he gracefully transitioned from leading man to a backstage role as one of the industry's most sought-after action choreographers and mentors. He attempted a crossover to American television with the series Martial Law, but he grew frustrated with the simplistic writing and lack of creative control, eventually leaving the hit show, a move that proved he valued artistic integrity over a Hollywood paycheck. But it was his work nearly a decade later that served as his final, definitive statement on Bruce Lee. He signed on as the action choreographer for the 2008 blockbuster Ip Man, a film about Lee's own Wing Chun master. This was the unresolved narrative he finally chose to correct. He wasn't competing with Lee's ghost. By meticulously crafting the fight scenes for the story of the man who trained Lee, Hung was paying the ultimate tribute, not to the global icon, but to the lineage, philosophy, and artistry that created him. It was a profound act of humility and respect. With this, the circle was complete. He was no longer the challenger or the reluctant successor. He was a master honoring another master, finally putting the ghost that had haunted the industry for decades to rest, entirely on his own terms. In the end, the secret Sammo Hung kept for 50 years was not one of defeat, but of revelation, a moment of shock that became a lifetime of inspiration. His journey began as a boy fighting for survival in a brutal academy and led him to become a master who had to define himself against the impossible ghost of a legend. Sammo Hung's 50 years of relative silence wasn't about shame or rivalry. It was about a deep, abiding respect. The terrifying speed of Bruce Lee's kick taught him a lesson that day that would fuel his innovation for decades to come. To truly honor a master, you must stop trying to be them and instead become yourself. So, what is a legend's true influence? Is it measured by the followers they create, or by the masters they inspire to carve their own unique path? Sammo Hung never escaped Bruce Lee's shadow. He learned to master it. That final question is a heavy one, and there's no right answer. But we want to know what you think. What is a legend's true influence? Is it measured by the followers they create, or by the masters they inspire to carve their own unique path? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. If you appreciated this deep dive into the hidden stories that define a life, show your support by hitting that like button. And to make sure you don't miss our next exploration into the lives of iconic figures, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video.